Welcome to the 30/30 list. We are looking at the best momentum list that we've seen in the last 12 months. It's very rare for us to say that, but we're actually breaking new highs in the records that we're looking at. So this list, we've got a very, very hot quarterly momentum list. And then we've got a launchpad list where we normally look to see the next market leaders, but there's some words of caution coming from Gary this week on that list. And then we also want to be looking through standard things where we've got the members' requests. We send the list out to them on a Thursday. They send through their requests. They get reading at the same time Gary is, and he's pulling out the best charts for us to look at for the opportunities, the new setups, and the lessons to learn from the markets, but also for the next trades to make. So a lot that we normally cover, but we're doing it a little bit differently this morning because we are at the extreme end with the best opportunities we've seen in a very long time for momentum traders. So we say, good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, no, pretty good. So that score of 100, Chris, that you're saying is that over how long a period of that? Is that over the last year or last 3 years, or how long?
That is a great question. I love that one because I wasn't going to go that deep into it, but it is definitely the last 12 months. So this is the best momentum that we've seen in the last 12 months. And I know what you spoke about on your Tuesday report and we spoke about last week. I think you've said it's been a pretty good time for your momentum trading. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, and I like it. Some guy here feels hot. Yeah, because it's. I was thinking it is hot. It's as hot as I've seen it for a long time, but I have seen it hotter. But we have to go back quite a few years to sort of feel that. You know what I mean? So yeah, so it can get hotter, no doubt about it. But it is pretty hot at the moment. No doubt it is. I do have that feeling like it feels like we're getting pretty close to the pointy end, but still not seeing much. I haven't seen many distribution days yet. So yeah.
Well, without the distribution days, which is that marker that we want to look for, and we'll hope to hear your insights on when they do start showing. You just sort of touched on a good point there, which was we have seen it hotter before, and what we've got on screen here is something that we've shared. It's a beta version for our YouTube members. They're sort of helping us frame the final finishing touches on it so that when we launch this next level of membership, we get the reports how we want it. Where we are today is this green dotted line. So hopefully you can see on the chart that's sort of the momentum scores of the top 30, which is in today's 30/30 list. And we've plotted them here, the green line. Rank number 1 is on the left. Rank number 30 is on the far right. And you can kind of see it flicks up to be the best performer on the left. This green line is definitely the best we've seen in the last 12 months. But you're absolutely right. This pink line at the far top, we had about 3 years ago. That's the best that we've seen since I've created these measures, and it's been about 5 years or so. It was just absolutely diabolical. And if we think about it in comparison, the worst or the 30th position on the 30/30 list on the 14th of March 2022 still got a score of 104. And the best one today, or yesterday on Thursday, was only 62. So if anyone's been momentum trading for that long, they'll remember that it was just kind of throw money at the market and it goes up. So does that kind of fit with your feeling of it's feeling hot now,
Yeah.
but in times in the past, does that kind of give a bit of a measure to where we sit and what you've experienced in the past?
Yeah. So we are sort of seeing a few main sort of activities in the US as well. So there was a few stocks that social media posted were causing stocks to go up 10 or 20% move. So that is getting sort of frothy, no doubt about it. But yeah, like it does feel hot, but there's sort of reasons behind it as well. So here and there's reasons to get maybe a little frothy as well, even go a bit high here. So but yeah, I definitely, I keep waking up looking at the market just sort of just to double check, check it with the volumes and momentum and what's happening in the States, and even looking at the top, I look at the leaders in the US market. Yeah, and they're still just having these small down days. I think, I think 9 of the top 9 last night, I think 8 of the top 9 are down, but they're all down small. And they're all just sort of still, I think they're all above the 20-day moving average. Some of them are sort of hanging around the 10, not motivating. A couple might have even crossed below, but nothing, but no volume, no. They're just having a bit of a breather here, but it's a relentless market. It's quite extraordinary, really. But yeah, so I'm not surprised to sort of see that score of 100 there, which is stronger as this year. But
Yeah.
so,
Well,
but that normally is a warning sign to be tighten up. I'm actually going through my stops every day, and I'm double checking them. I'm trying to edge them up. I'm tighten them up. I'm really keeping an eye on that risk. I do not want to give up. We've had a great period here over the last 3 months, probably the best 3 months I can remember personally. And I do not want to give up all those gains or give up too many of those gains. I prepare to have a little bit of risk on here because you've got to be in it to win it. We could keep going here, but we don't want to. This is where you don't get sloppy here. You want to be and make sure you tighten up there. So look at you can moving averages or use a last swing low. Just keep identifying sort of where the spot could be and where it should remain if it's looking healthy and acting properly, and levels where it should be breaking below. So you don't want to be caught out here. So
well, they're definitely solid insights, and you've been through market cycles and experienced them before. Before we throw to the momentum leaders, so you can teach us about what to take from them this week, we'll just look at the data to sort of the last couple of months that you're talking about. Here's how the momentum's just been improving on the market. You can see in the top chart, momentum's just been getting higher and higher and higher. Where this pink dotted line is, that's 2 standard deviations away. So if we look at bell curves without getting too much into the data, here's kind of the average, the bulk of it, where you can see on the bottom chart. And then we're way out here as 2 standard deviations. And you can see that the vertical blue lines get quite thin. We don't have many observations out here. And then Thursday was actually the best observation. So it's sort of pushed the chart further out to the right, which is that fat tail we expect to see in financial markets. And exactly what you're talking about. It's the best. It's been a solid 3 months of steadily getting better for momentum traders. And we've seen that before, September into sort of November, and then it sort of came crashing down. So that's kind of the lens that hopefully we can hand over to you. And what I'll do is I'll turn the screen share off and then enable it so that we can jump in and have a look at your charts. So that's just been turned on. So Zoom can then hand the reins over to Gary. And that list is what members get to log into. They get the password, they can jump in there, they get the 30/30 list, they can start looking at it, they can look back at previous ones through that web portal and then sort of check it. It also shows sector rotations and the rankings of the momentum for the 11 sectors on ASX. So that's what the members get access to. And also they get to put in requests. And there's been a lot of requests and they've been steadily increasing in the last couple of weeks as it's been a better momentum traders market. So we'll see what Gary's looked at and the lessons he's pulled out for this week and then throw him the requests what's left. So where do we start this week's quarterly momentum lessons, Gary?
starting at number 5 there. So yeah, so we did have a bit of a VCP sort of stuff, but we had that, I guess you'd sort of see your breakout here, 52-week high. Then it did sort of run here. There's some really good volume there. That's probably been the compelling thing. Volume's been pretty high. So if you've been following this channel for a while, we know that we like to see that high momentum moves and big volume. And then when it pulls back, we want to see it dry up here. So we saw this stock, pull back here. Volume's, quite a bit lower. Did try and back and not too much volume there. So you might get a bit nervous there. But when you saw this, 2 or 3 days starting to go down here, and then you saw no volume, saw the selling really, really dry up there. That's when you saw that, this could come out of here. So, to me here, that even just breaking above that little B wave there, around 4.9 would have been a good little sign. Come back here. Too small for me personally, but that's the type of thing, you want to see that strength, have a bit of a pause, tighten up, volume dry up, pop out there. So this is too small for me personally, but still looks pretty healthy, Chris. This volume's healthy as well here. So, haven't seen much selling here, and that's what we like to sort of see from our sort of momentum names there. Go up on strength, pull back on a lot of volume. Not seeing too much selling here. This one's a small one as well. IXR, too small for me, but very chunky volume through there, so pretty robust. So that just goes on the watch list for me, just because it's too small. VMM was one that we spoke about previously. Just love to sort of see that volume there as well. So we did see a nice little VCP in there and then breakout. I mentioned this, a little throwback and then come back to the range. And then we definitely, this day here, we had that breakout there. And the next day we had like this is what, sometimes we don't need to be buying 52-week highs. We just need to be buying 1 month highs as well. So that's sort of what we refer to as buying strength as well. So buying like a 1 month or a 2 month, or this might be a 6 month high, that's still a good sign there. So you've got your little VCP here, you break your B wave, which is great, breaking through. To me, like what I try and do is once we break that B wave, I'll add a position on. And then if we break through, say, another lower high, then I'll add some there as well. Because then you're sort of starting to crack a few more highs. That's showing more strength there. So we should be adding there. But, if we got a signal like that, that's a good volume day. And the next day we get volume follow through as well. So nothing, those 2 days they're really triggering it for. And then we get big volume, and then it pulls back here, pretty light volume again. The whole thing, again, we have 2 days up here, good volume. And look at this, 3 or 4 days here, tightening up here. So we get another VCP in here, almost get another setup for us as well. So again, if we break this little congestion here, little cup and handle in there, and then so you basically could buy on that handle. You could buy breaking. This basically is closed at a new high as well. So again, we're buying strength as well. This was kicked on here, so this has been pretty robust there. The beautiful aspect there is it's held the 20 as well. So that's the good thing about with momentum names is that you get used to using the 10 and 20 moving averages there. Those sort of stronger names should be sort of holding those levels. They shouldn't be sort of cracking those levels as well. And you saw this here. This is why we sort of see this 50-day moving average. Just a good lesson here is that's been negative all the way down here. And then you start to see a bit of a jump, and it tightens up here. But that 50 starts to sort of flatten out, and then it starts to turn up here. And as we're breaking out here, this has already started to turn up here. So always a good. And I personally prefer to see a stock. I don't know. The last sort of 3 months, Chris, I'm rarely been taking a trade. The price is below the 50. I've just avoided it, and it just seems to be. I feel like it's improved my stats substantially. My win rate by just looking at that as well. So it's something I've talked about and toyed with and written about and put in my rules there. But it's probably the last 3 months has probably been the most full on I've been with it, my trading there. I've almost made no exceptions to that rule there. And I'll go back and once I sort of review those last 3 months there, I'm sure that's going to be one of the big pluses to add to my rules. I might even make it compulsory moving forward rather than just being one of the many checklists there. But this has been strong here. It's taken off here. So that's a really good chart to sort of study that VMM. DTR we spoke about, date line in that shallow strength, pull back, tighten up, BCP, B wave break, and it's had a good run here so far. So it looks quite good. A little bit of volume in the last couple of days, so you got to be careful. Sometimes they can just go back up to the high and then flatten out. But so far so good there. We just put our stops in and we give us what the market gives us there. Really, you trade some in the heat, like the pros do, and then you stop the rest with a moving and it keeps running like this one does. Then you stay long. If it rolls off, then you stopped out, and at least you're banking some capital in. But PUA looks pretty healthy. Again, Chris, just a really robust chart there. I mean, really been pretty much held that 10-day moving average. Volume's been pretty robust the whole time. So to me, this is sort of one that I've just sort of circled here to watch. So far, that's been, even though it's small, broad-based rally, been no selling in there so far. So probably won't get my trade money just because it is too small, but that was a 50, 60 cent stock there. I'd probably watch this pretty closely there for some sort of contraction. Come back in there because so far it's got all the right signs there. CU6. This is kind of one that I sort of missed there, Chris. I didn't trade this one there, just because it wasn't showing a lot of strength. Like it had such a big drawdown, but that sort of went against it. That's sort of like that 80-90% pullback. So, but in hindsight, the one thing that I did miss there was if you sort of drill into the weekly, what we did see down at the lows there was an increase in trading volume to see how the volume was. I know as you get,
remained elevated.
yeah, look, obviously if you go from $9 down to $2, then you're going to be buying more of them. So the volume should increase, but we did see a pretty healthy volume profile through here. Some pretty strong volume, and then, didn't really contract in there like I'd love to sort of see. But we did sort of come out of this congestion there. So you could have had, you could have had your little your trend line there, and we were starting to come through the 50 as well. That was the thing. You just wait for that little B wave break there. So pretty much buying it on the 27th of June there, come through there. That would have been a good trigger there because the volume was pretty healthy, showing a bit of strength there, and then and you're above the 50 as well. So, but that's probably one that I missed there. But to be honest, I did trade a few other names in the same sort of similar sector, so they did all right. So I'm not going to complain too much. NYR was another one. I think it was, this was pretty sold in. Again, a bit small for me, but has had a pretty impulsive run here. So it's sort of held that 20-day moving average pretty well. So again, that probably just goes on the watch list just to sort of keep an eye on. Patriot, BMT, there's a funny one actually. There's one actually that I've got this on my watch list actually. And it was probably one of the weakest looking lithium shares. Like I think CXO took off first. I think IGO, Laggards, PLS was a bit of a late glimmer there. Mineral Resources.
Then did okay, yeah. It was a chart.
Yeah, so they were all sort of set up here, but Patriot was probably one of the weaker sets. But the Patriot's actually one that a lot of people on the mining industry talk about as having good ground. They were just worried about its, whether it can make it work in a suppressed environment. So no surprise to sort of see it has popped out here. Didn't sort of show up there, but I just know a lot of smart people were saying this has got good ground. So, but it has had a pretty phenomenal jump here. So, be a little cautious here now, but it has had a good run, but has been a bit of a laggard. That's probably the only thing with that one now at least there. USL I thought was that's not one of that sort of silver space there, so it's had a pretty nice run. SRL, I just got this as a bit of a watch there, just because it has had a pretty impulsive move. So it's a little bit choppy and some big pullbacks there. But yeah, after that sort of perfect BCP there in sort of May, June, and breaking out there, it's sort of it's got a bit looser, but yeah, it probably just goes on the watch list for me. EUR, this one sort of had a nice BCP in there, Chris, as well. Sort of had that pullback there, tighten up, and then we sort of did come through there, bit of a B-wave, a bit choppy there, a bit small here. But interesting thing here is that we did see that big jump. It's almost like that episodic pivot there. So you obviously some good news. The thing gaps up and you get some buying momentum. Yeah, you probably next day might have been a little bit nervous there with that bigger volume there, but the price did hold up by the end of the day, so it did sort of finish straight. Does sort of congest there, pulls back by the 50, which is a bit negative, but then the next day does drive through and some sort of strong buying. That's probably the day there, probably give you some confidence that it's going to sort of kick on there. And what is kind of interesting here is that even though it's a bit loose and a bit small, that's kind of the body of that high there. You can see the price action follow that a couple of days up here, but then the down days are very, very light volume here. Even these sort of couple of down days there, very light volume. Again, so it's sort of selling off here, but no volume here. So you see 2 days is dry up there, but where it dried up was just sitting on top of that previous high. So all the price action sat on top of that little short-term high, and that's pretty constructed. So just staying here would have given you some confidence that we're going to it's going to keep going up. So, but yeah, just continuing to sort of look at, a trend will be like a sort of staircase that'll build on each little top there. So whether it's a longer term top or a short term top there, it should sort of build on top of those levels there. So they see stock jump up and then come back and just sit on top of that, hold that level there and then go again. Particularly see volume dry up at that level as well. That's what you want to sort of see in your momentum names as well. MTMs, getting a bit loose there, so just going to be tightening up here for this one. EDU I thought was pretty interesting, Chris. Probably one of the most interesting stocks on this list, actually. So I thought I hadn't really recognized this one here. Now, I did look it up there. It's in that sort of overseas tertiary education space in. So it's a bit like IEL, which that's really having a tough time here. So these guys are sort of, I think their enrollments were up about 119%. I saw, I had a quick look. I did see that the register, 80% of the register is like 5% plus holders. So some big inside holdings, and even the other non-insider holdings are big holdings as well. So
well, that'll explain the chart, and this extremely tightly held.
Yeah. So very tightly held. So register. So definitely want to keep an eye on there. Well, it's very extended here. Obviously moving away from average, had a pretty good run there. I thought it was a stock to keep an eye on there just because it is in a sector which is a bit weak here, but they seem to be doing some good things in a negative sector, and also that register is really tight as well.
To be skeptical, if it's a super tight register, the industry's going down and having headwinds. Just want to check if there are any options for escrow.
Yeah, wait till they can that. Yeah, well, I think it's been around for a while. Yeah, I think. Oh, possibly maybe it's a reconfiguration or something. So yeah.
But that'd be a warning bell just to check out for a liquid one like that. What was it? The Hongkongese listed company the other week that went up something like 46,000%. Very tightly held. Yeah, you just got to watch out.
Well, that's the beauty of those ones that are tightly held, is that they can, because if 80% of the register is locked up, and you're only playing in the last 20%. So if they're sticky hold,
move quickly.
Yeah, really done. Mesoblast is number 29 on the list there. So, that to me, this is definitely a stock that I'm watching pretty closely here, because I mentioned in the last 2 weeks there that I think that did have a little spring low there, but I feel like this is a sector that's got potential legs longer term. I just feel like the company's hit a game changing moment for it. So just reminds me of 360 and Zero. When you go in the market, you're not making any money. And Mesoblast would tap in the market continually, but then finally, they get their first FDA product, and in the first quarter, the revenue line is off the charts. It's a big, so one, it sort of shows that they got a product which is going to be in high demand pretty quick, and that's a high margin business. All of a sudden, these guys may not need to raise any money, or all of a sudden it's a business, and they have a lot of different patents out there and lots of products as well. So they're not a one product company. So it's a bit like that sort of Neuron Pharmaceuticals there. They've got a few different products as well. So they sort of had a few wins in different areas. So even like they were sort of down about $12 there recently, did jump up to, remember, NEU sort of, it's gone from under $9 there up to 16. So I remember it was around about $11, $12 there. A few analysts were saying that the current business is all worth $11, $12. They've got a few trials coming on board, which could open up all markets, and that could open, and that's the reason why it's sort of run a little bit here. So Mesoblast is a bit the same here. It's now got that, it's a game changing moment for the company. It's now got starting for business. It's now making some money, which it hasn't done in a long time here. So, that'll have people skeptical of the company, but bottom line is FDA approval, big revenue the first quarter there. That's Insto buying there up that see that first big bar there. I said to my clients there actually, after that jump, that if it comes back to the midpoint, you'd have to buy that. when I see a move like that, big volume coming there. So I think I measured out the midpoint around about 221 or something, 222 or something. Yeah. So luckily for me, I did buy some here around 221, 222. So yeah. But I think this is one to sort of keep an eye on here, Chris. I think it really can. I just think this is a game changing moment for the stock here. So I know it's got some overhead here. Yeah, I think this one's really one to keep an eye on there. So I'm going to try and do something different with this stock here. I'm going to try and hold it for longer rather than try and trade out my normal multiples and stuff there. So I'm going to try and wait for these sideways pauses and try and re-enter or try and build a position here like the William O'Neill might do if he thought he was an winner. Yeah, seeing the right kind of price action. So I think
Well, I know some of our viewers have some decent positions in Mesoblast, so you might get some chat below, some insights, and some fellow longer term holders. But I
did see that actually. I did see a little comment there from Alf on the Market Point videos there last week. Yeah, so I just call out to Alf. I mean, I love that sort of stuff. Hearing from the viewers saying that they've I think Alf mentioned that he before he started watching our videos there, he was sort of, I think he was off 40% or something like that, and he's managed to sort of call back majority of that over the last 12 months or something. So great to hear some good news stories about people having success there, trading, those stronger names, momentum, and just, looking at the right sort of stuff here. So, if you've got, yes, it's encouraging for you and I, because we're not really making money out of this. I know you small subscription fee, but it's pretty much enough.
it doesn't cover.
Yeah, they didn't cover your production costs. So.
Doesn't cover the production costs. Nowhere near the software cost.
So we're not really. So we're here for the love of it. You and I are trying to learn. We're kind of students as well. We're trying to improve our own trading and our knowledge, and that's what we're here sharing. So it is nice to sort of hear from a few members there some positive stories. So
Definitely keep them coming, please. We'd love to hear.
Yeah, feel free to send some positive stories if you feel like you're getting some traction in it. So, good on you, Alf. Just got to keep going here. That's the key, but we are at the pointy end here potentially. So just time to tighten up and make sure we don't give away too much.
Preserve the wins.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, Chris. I think rather bit 3 to go was the last one there, but that's just a bit of a watch for me because the volumes have been up here, but the volumes are probably coming a bit late. So this tells me just to, probably just got to watch that one. So, because you sort of see there's no volume all the way through here until we get to the end here. So that's just, so that can be the sort of smart money starting to exit near the end. So that's the only thing.
Well, there's three extra ones that haven't been covered just yet on the members' request. So there was EUR. Oh no, you did cover that one actually. FRS.
Yeah, you're right. I thought that was it. I think. Yeah, it's a good VC there. NRS, is it?
F Foxtrot Romeo Sierra.
Yeah, I didn't cover that. I just didn't like that last bar there. Like, it's had a bit of a ripping moment. We had that, that perfect sort of VCP sort of setup there, got tight and then broke out, which is a good setup there. And we had that higher sort of cup and handle there, which again, you just see those in the strongest names again as well. Has had a run there. Just this bar here when it obviously, shot up here and then sort of sold off there. So I thought, that would just have me a little bit cautious there. That would cause me to tighten up my holding. So look, still sort of, well, the plus there is that the 2 down days in there, pretty light. Even these days are pretty light as well. So that was the first day you saw any sort of rejection there, but it still could sort of just tick higher against that. That just might just be like sometimes these sort of can be early warnings stuff there. But so far I haven't seen any selling here. So it still looks okay. Just, I'll just be tightening up a little bit, that's all.
And then I think it's LMG. Should check that actually. LMG? Yeah, Latrobe.
Yeah, just coming off the low there. It's a bit small for me. Look, did have a bit of volume here earlier, a bit of a chunky volume there, and come back there, but pretty healthy volume as well. And a bit of a jump here. You've finally broken a swing high, so some hope that, but still pretty early. But you had broken a swing high there, so that's sort of positive there. But just a bit late here. It's this next list there is a weekly list there, and that's sort of like there's some interesting stocks in that list. Don't get me wrong, but there's some laggards in that list. There's sort of stocks that are in sectors that are hot, but they have not been hot until very
Tonight
late.
list.
Yeah. So and we know like history tells us that you don't trade the laggards. So you can trade you trade the sister stock. So you say that you trade the strongest name. So you trade the stronger 2 or 3 sort of stocks in that sector. So if your sector's hot, Stan Weinstein, all the studies tell us that, if you're in a sector, I think William N. Elsler says that I think it's like 2/3 of the biggest gain in over history come from sectors that are hot as well. So you got to be in the right sectors. That's paramount. So that increases your odds. So I think Stan Weinstein talks about returns being maybe 3 or 4 times greater in those hotter sectors as well. So you can have a stock in isolation and can be a separate company that's not in a hot sector. So it can still happen.
Sure, but you've got to have super strong news. You're probably doing a takeover. They're anomalies. That's a hard slog, that one.
Yeah. But you also want to be in the strongest names in the strongest sectors. And we do have to be careful of those laggards, the ones that sort of show their hand late. So we can rotate through a few names, but you're got to be careful buying the stragglers or the late color, because they're often the weakest companies in those sectors. They're weak for a variety of reasons a lot of time. So that's why you got to be careful.
Well, I definitely agree with that. And I was going to give you a chart. Appen APX is sort of a segue to go from, well, it has been a leader. It is sort of showing up, but it's not doing the right thing. And then we look at the launch pad. So you're looking here, you've got the red line as the 50-day moving average. We're over it, and we shot through it. We shot through it with volume and a lot of gusto. We came back and retested. So that was May. In June, we came back and retested it, made a higher low. Made a higher low in July, and then a second higher low later in July to where we are, sort of a B wave break yesterday on Thursday, which didn't make the list, but this has sort of got me asking from the laggard side of things, how do you view Appen and 0123, VCP, breaking over the 50-day, putting all that together? So I thought this was a good chart to kind of analyze in that sense.
Well, I feel, I mean, I have a position in Appen, which I've sort of just added to yesterday on that P-wave break here. But I am nervous. I'm watching this position probably closer than any other, just because it hasn't shown that sort of strength there so far. Most of my other moves have already had the VCPs and already broken out and already shown some strength and pulled back a lot of volume here. This is one I'm sort of like, like a little
long but nervously long.
Yeah. Like it did have that little, I mean, this is a good signing of that nice volume and then pulling back here. It's come back to the 50, sort of broken below, but sort of maybe it's, I like to say this, I prefer to sort of stay in the top half. It's probably just, probably just exceeded that a little bit, but not too bad. But then it does rebound back on some good volume and then tighten up here. I thought this was going to be the breakout there. I think it came out here by a little bit there. So I think I did add a small position in here, and the whole thing sort of congested there. And then I added coming out here, but it hasn't really kicked on here. So it's funny. It's funny. It's sort of one that I've been talking to a few traders about there, because it's sort of got the potential to take off here. It's in the right sector here, but the price action's not really. Yeah. So it's one that I do like, but if it doesn't sort of show strength, Chris, I'm straight out of it here. I just don't want to expose myself to too much risk here. So it was kind of weird. I was wrestling with this one yesterday, actually, just because it's that very reason. It's like am I forcing myself on this stock, or is the stock showing me a good signal there? So look, it is showing me a VCP. It is tightened up. The volume profile is pretty good, but it is a bit of a laggard there. That's the risk at the moment here. It's not really taking off there. So interesting you picked that one there. That's the only, as I said to stock yesterday, this is the only stock that I'm nervous about holding it. Everything else I love in my what I'm holding. Everything else is performing, showing me the right thing. This is the only one that's all like, yeah. And I was trying to give it. Sometimes you got to give sort of stocks a little bit of time there because they can come late. There has been rotation in this market. So the other stocks that I sort of get, I've given up on one or two stocks here recently, and it's come back to haunt me. I should have stayed with them a bit longer. They were, like them, and it ended up sort of kicking on and going higher. So you do need to give stocks a little bit of room here.
Well, which shows that one. I'll just shout out to Archer, who's a good moderator on the channel and very good at chatting and filling in the blanks, particularly when I'm asleep. That seems to be when most members are active. I start at 3 or 4, so I'm normally asleep when most people are watching the channel. So shout out to him for the app and conversation and being a great moderator. So we move into the Launchpad now, though, which is sort of what you've been building up to and talking to about is the Laggards list, the Johnny Come Latelys is what I'll look at them as when they're the last ones in the sector to break out. I know that studying things like uranium and lithium, we can have breakouts that go for literally 3 months from the first VCP in the group to like the 15th or 16th on the ASX VCP in the same thematic while the others are running. It doesn't feel like that right now. So how do you look at this Launchpad list, Gary? Is it concerning, and how does it fit in with your Tuesday reports?
Yes, and there's stocks on that list. I mean, see, Coronado is like a classic one as well. So that's been, I mean, most of the coal stocks have been running pretty hot there. So Whitehaven, New Hope, SMR, which was actually one that I was long there. They've been pretty strong here, but Coronado's been definitely a laggard there. So and that's look at that. That stock has got overheads resistance there. So many losers in front. So that's why it's going to have struggled to get going here. I know it kind of looks okay. Looks like it's maybe coming through, breaking a B wave today here. So a bit of volume behind it, but it is a laggard. So that's got to be careful. I'm not saying don't trade it. Just recognize that this is a laggard in that industry. So can still have a bit of, maybe it can get a bit of a pop here. But I find that when stocks like this, they can have a little bit of a run, Chris, but then when they give it up, they get hit hard as well. They get whipped back pretty hard. So you don't sort of see, because there's so many losers in front here, they're going to be selling into this. So that's the tough part of trading those laggards there. SBM, which is obviously in that gold sector, again, it's Santa Barbara's been a laggard as well. It's been one of the weakest sort of stocks in that sector. So yeah, it's triggering here this week, but again, we've sort of probably got a lot of the weakest names in some of the strongest sectors triggering this week. So
Yeah.
that's what I looked at that list. I thought, I'm not saying they're dogs. I'm just saying
They're late.
they're the weakest. They're the laggards. That's sort of, history tells us not to trade those. So they're the riskiest sort of stocks to trade here. So yeah, so you've got to be careful there.
Well, I know going through the Launchpad, and I'll share with you the thematics that are leading. I know going through the last week or two, I wake up each morning and go through the list. And what I'm looking at is, while the themes are still ranking highly, I'm looking through the constituents, and it's the laggards that are coming through, and I'm just discounting so many of those themes. Just saying, I can't trade them. They don't fit the right brief. So it's interesting. You've been seeing the same in a different perspective.
But we know, I mean, I've been doing this for a few years here, Chris. Now I don't know how long, maybe 2 or 3 years or maybe longer. But
I don't know. We probably don't want to check. It's longer.
but we know when we are seeing the laggards pop, we know we're getting close to the end. It's almost like it's once we start seeing them pop, we know we're only a week or two away from the good times.
Well, that does fit with your sweet spot coming into August. We're sort of in the last week of July, so it's odd how that kind of is overlapping.
Yeah. A couple of stocks I think look okay. They sort of did see Elders sort of break out there. I didn't again, there's a bit of a laggard there, a bit weak there. The sector was pretty weak then. I thought, new farm, all those ag stocks, surprisingly, were sort of down here, but did sort of see this sort of setup here. There was a bit of a cup and handle in there. There was some good volume out of there, Chris. So I personally just couldn't play this actually. Just was almost like I'm wearing my fundamental hat thinking, gee, there's just a lot of flooding activity throughout New South Wales and Queensland. And when it comes to reporting or if there's some sort of early reporting, I can see negative surprises potentially in this sector just because it's been, but look, maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe all that flooding there, people let it go back and spend more money. Maybe it's good for elders. Because then you got to start again and spend money, So, but just one sector, that just made me a little bit nervous there. But I did see that setup. That was actually quite a nice little setup there in stock there. So, there's some pretty decent sort of solid volume in there. I noticed New Farm as well. I asked a few brokers were talking about this as being representing some value. Yeah, it's had a bit of a run here, but to me, I'd probably leave it alone. It's just I want to see above the 50. I want to see it build first. So not for me. But one that I saw during the week was PEXA. That was a little bit of an episodic pivot there. It did gap up quite a bit on some pretty good news. So look, PEXA's sort of, kind of, I'm sort of pretty, this is a stock I've been interested in actually, just because I think that UK market is ripe for disruption in that property area. So PEXA's got, it's pretty much got 90% of the market here in Australia. So can't really grow here much. It needs to sort of hit those other markets, grow there. So, but that UK market is ripe for disruption. They had sort of signed that NatWest Bank there previously, but now they've actually signed on to sort of start settling now. So as of next year, you've got one of the banks will be settling through PEXA there, which is pretty good news. That's a potential game changer in some regard. It was probably talked about in here, but now it's sort of signed off on. So that's pretty positive there. The one thing we know about banks, Chris, is they don't have too many new thoughts or innovations. They tend to just sort of copy each other. If one goes into a new sector, they all tend to follow usually. So I think it's a good sign for PEXA. So yeah, it's a pretty positive move there. Like you might see some volatility here on the top around this high here. But I think that's pretty substantial news there. But expect price to sort of settle that back a little bit after that move. I think TVN was sort of one bit of a VCP setting up in there. It's sort of a smaller stock there, 10 cents, but we've had that strong run, pull back, good run against some good volume, pull back. The thing I like about here is that this point here for Hick, Chris, there's no volume. So that's the ideal sort of setup when you sort of start to contract, is to sort of see lighter volumes through there. And then we've seen good volume come in here in the last few days here. So that's not a bad looking setup here, really. It's a little small, but not a bad setup. It has been a little loose in the past. That's the downside risk, is that it does have some history of being a little bit loose. Not the worst setup there. RMA was that's sort of one that had a bit of a VCP. It's probably had a larger pullback than you'd like to see. It's had a bit of a bounce there, tightened up here, started to come out, but again, it's a little loose. It's not the worst setup, but a little loose. But yeah, the quality of sort of setups in here is not the highest here at the moment. I think QOR was sort of one that I thought looked okay. Just because it had sort of had a pretty strong rebound back to the high, get a little bit of a cup and handle in there. What sort of eye catching is that volume? So that handle there really come through with some pretty heavy volume. So no surprise to see it come through. And if you do scroll out, sometimes when they're a little bit messy like that on the daily, best to look out a bit wider on the weekly to sort of see what type of levels there. So this is actually not a bad sign here that's come through, broken out here on treated mean. So 52-week high, we know some of those can really kick on here. So this looks pretty positive there to me so far.
Right.
That's mainly, there's a few others in there I sort of thought were okay, but I'll just try to highlight the better ones there.
Well, we've got still a fair few launchpad requests from the members, so they're liking these later come ones, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. So let's have a go. LMG. So Lima Mike.
Yeah, good. Look, I just circled here big volume, so keep an eye on that. Yeah, still in a pretty strong downtrend. Only just broken a swing high here, so pretty early. Too small for me personally, but okay without being brilliant.
Yeah. After LMG AGY Alpha Golf Yankee.
AGY. Yeah, I sort of circled okay here. Had that big jump there, contracted back there. Just there was a bit of volume on that contraction, Chris. I don't like to sort of see like that. See how that's pretty heavy through each day. You know, the strongest names, you don't see that. You see the big volume and then you see it lighten up here. So yeah, it's come out again, So it's sort of showing strength there so far. What you'd actually want to see here is want to see this pull back and then the volume completely dry up. That's when you get more excited. So sometimes that can happen too. So definitely, I sort of circle this one as an okay here. It's too small for me personally, but if I saw this sort of pullback here, say 3 or 4 days, and then the volume dried up, and then it start to, maybe it had like a little, what do you call it, a little demand tail there, a little reversal there. Yeah, but yeah, so I thought that was not the worst chart there. It is interesting there. If I was into sort of 3-cent stocks, I'd be having a look and see what's going on there. There's obviously some news about there has triggered that move there, so it potentially could be on the move.
RNU, we've seen that one before. Romeo November Unicorn.
Yeah. What did I write here? Yeah, no, just it was okay.
Been a while since we've seen it on the list.
Yeah, it looked pretty small. It come from a pretty weak position. It's had a pretty large pullback again, so it hasn't stayed in the top half either. So yeah, so looks okay, but not that strong. So I can't really get excited there if we zoom out. But maybe the weekly is a little bit better, but that is still a strong downtrend. Yeah, so you've broken one minor little swing high here. But yeah, so there's some life there, but pretty early.
Pretty early. And next one on the list after RNU, we've got AIS, not the Australian Institute of Sport.
Yeah, I did see this. I did circle like K for this reason. Yeah, just a bit small here for me, but yeah, potentially had that bit of a jump again. So the volume profile looks okay. Bit small personally, but yeah, you got a lot of overhead here. So $1.50, $1.60 all the way down here. So yeah, you zoom in here, then it does have the appearance of a VCP in there. So that's sort of constructive, but haven't really, haven't gone through here yet. Yeah, maybe we close above here. So the volume profile is all right. But yeah, just that overhead's probably a bit of a worry. But yeah, not the worst at all. So definitely, yeah, I'd be sort of just reading up and just seeing what they're doing, see if there's anything new happening there that which might be able to drive us on. But just remember that's got a lot of overhead. So that's a lot of people who've bought this over the last 4 or 5 years that are losers. So anytime it rallies, there'll be plenty of them trying to get out into any rally there. That's sort of why you really need something game changing for the stock to have that big jump there. So yeah, but not the worst looking chart, but
Not for you.
Yeah.
Talga also makes a request, TLG.
Yeah, this stuff is a bit choppy, really. It's a bit loose there. So yeah, been around for a while. This stock here, sort of, yeah, been touted by a few, but hasn't really done much there, really. So it's a real choppy sort of. I mean, it's broken out. and then failed over and over again. So it's just got a history of failing of its moves here. So yeah, it's not the worst looking chart there, but that might be a little spring there, Chris, like your sort of washout move there. But yeah, still really can't get out of this little group here. So you want to sort of see this, but again, look at that overhead resistance as well. This is the thing about the stocks that have, if they've been in downtrends for a long time, they got to go through lots, there's lots, through here, they probably done 2 or 3 cap raisings. So there's lots more shares on issue now as well, lots more losers. So it's hard to make headway when there's so many people who have lost in front of you. That's why that's the thing about buying 1 month or 6 month or 52-week highs is that there's no losers for the last year or two in there. And if you are at new higher ground, you keep going there. So that's the name of the game. So, that's why it's sort of going to new highs is people are afraid to buy those, but no one's bought.
Our best trade.
So there's no losers. There's no one looking to sort of get out. So it's that's the thing about momentum. It's if you get new high, if you're at new highs and high ground there, it can sort of keep going there.
Well, next one on the list after Talgo, CRS.
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 Yeah, pretty small. A lot of overhead as well. Look, that's the weekly there. So that's interesting. The fact that there's actually a bit of volume there. As soon as it had any sort of jump there, you can see that whack of volume come in. That's what you're going to sort of see when these stocks do have those runs. When there's so much overhead, is that when they do have a good run, they get the whack is hard, and there's a volume as well. So yeah, that's why I was sort of looking at the volume. Is that it's potentially building here. It's actually not a bad little setup there on the weekly. So yeah, it looks okay. It's a bit loose there. Looks like a bit of an EP in there, some news there. But you just got a lot of overhead then. So yeah, when these things run like that, you just know as soon as something negative happens, they just tend to get whacked. So that's I prefer to be in stocks that, when they're running, it's all good, but when they pull back, you want them to pull back nice. Yeah, nice and lightly, and then they stay tight and not too much selling there. Those stocks that have generally got so much overhead selling there, they tend to get whacked each time they come back. So
but it is SYR.
Yeah, it's this stock's been a bit of a disappointment. Actually, it's sort of threatened to do good things for a long time here, but again, for the foot of the overhead as well. So, me personally, if I, any sort of rallies there, I think you're just going to see a lot of people trying to get out there. This stock's been around for a while. It's done a couple of ratings as well. Being touted as one of the best graphite in the world here, highest quality, but it's still basically gone from 260 down to 20-30 cents there. So it's just going to be hard there. So, looks okay here in the short term, so maybe it can go a little bit higher there. But I think once you sort of start hitting levels there, you'll see all these losers in the past there try and get out, try and minimize something and loss in it, and that's unfortunately just one of the cases there. It's one thing I've stopped trading this, Chris, as well. Like when I see stocks that have got so much overhead supply, unless there's a game-changing announcement, significant change in the company sort of movements and activities, and something sort of monumental changes there, I just won't trade them there. So just knows they'll climb up a little bit. I know they can have some decent moves there, but they'll get hit pretty hard as well. And then you're a nervous holder as well. As soon as it's probably the selling is probably just going to come in because everyone's hoping it runs up. And then it starts to sort of turn down, and then it starts to sell up, and everyone's, I got to sell. So because everyone's sort of sitting in losing positions, they're all just trying to minimize those losses there. Oh, just think about your psyche as well. If you bought something and all of a sudden it's gone against you and you didn't sell out, and then
Kicking myself.
kicking myself big hole, So if it gets back here, I'll sell. It goes up this level, I'll sell the Rex. Yeah. I just don't want to have that big loss. I want to be a medium-sized loss instead of being a big loss. So, it's just the whole psychology of it. That's why the stocks struggle to sort of get going.
Well, there's one last one, which I'm pretty sure you've got an opinion about, is RMS.
So SPR, so Spartan now is no longer trading. So Spartan is now in RMS. So, it's funny actually. I like Spartan. I like that little setup down here. It actually did an undercut of the low, and then it sort of like did the 3-day EMA sort of there. So I thought that was a good, a little bit of a inverse head and shoulders pattern there. So you could have bought that there, but the reason I didn't buy it was because I knew in 4 or 5 days' time I'd be holding RMS shares. Then you're going to get some shares, some cash. It would take a while to
Messy.
settlement process. Like, I don't want to do that. So, but yeah, if it's now everyone loves Spartan, so potentially everyone might love RMS or now. But yeah, something into the golds there. I've found the golds pretty choppy here lately, just up and down here. So, not sure what to make of this really. I mean, this has tightened up here. It should have really. I think it should have gotten going by now, Chris. Gold. I'm just worried about how when I studied some of the moves in the past from gold, when it sort of got up about 300%, that's usually been a warning sign that it could cool off here. So when I look at sort of percentage moves in the past, this has had sort of one of the big moves. So just see that long tails here on the uptrend as well. So that's telling me just be pretty careful gold here. So and we know in the last 2 or 3 months, gold bulls are just that's one of the most crowded trades in the market right now is being long gold. So every portfolio manager, every fund manager in the country, it's got gold, holding gold, and says gold's great. So that's telling me be very careful here. It's just definitely very, very crowded trade here currently. So be careful with gold. Yeah, it's gone sort of sideways there. Been a few pullbacks there. But that's there's evolution. It's not in a strong position. Northern Star, I think, had a pretty good update yesterday, pretty cracking result, and yet sold off. So they're not showing that much strength to me. So I'll be a bit careful about it personally.
Yeah, I know in the morning reports that I look at and the different indicators that I use, it has been rolling off for some time. The precious metals have still been going up. But when we start to see the gold miners turnover, the gold price is pushing up less. When we look at the inflation hedges that are on the market, we're seeing less flow into gold, and the gold miners are sort of falling faster than the gold price. That's normally precursors. Doesn't mean it won't go up again. I mean, we have seen that along the rally, but it's kind of the beginning of the end, like a distribution day kind of thing. So
you just got to be careful. As sort of it's almost like when you see almost the whole market turn uniformly bullish or sector, just it's good. That's the time to be super cautious there. Just I kind of go back to I think it was 2007 there when BHP and Rio, it just you had to have BHP and Rio in the portfolio. I think BHP was $50, Rio was $100. The iron ore, miners were just making so much money. It was just every portfolio, everyone was long. The thing is, if everyone's already long, everyone's already bought it, who is left to buy it?
There's no one left to buy, then there's no one left to push it up.
Once every fund manager, every portfolio's got it in the portfolio, there's no one left to buy it. So that's the thing you got to be careful of there. So
Well, there's some good insights for the strongest momentum market that we have seen over the 12 months that we've been putting that data in that specific database. But we do know we have seen stronger times before. There have been better markets, but we do lean on your experience, Gary, into how to trade them, how to make the most of them, when to look for the warning signs, and when to sort of caution and tighten the stops. And we'll put onto the right-hand side a whole playlist where we've got some insights like that, where Gary shared with us some gems that he's learned over the years and how he manages his portfolio. And we say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
If members want to join or you want to check out that list that we showed right at the start, you can click on the bottom and then you can join to be a member. You'll see the beta version that we're running until August to get feedback on how we finalize and put the finishing touches into that level 2 membership that will hopefully launch into September.